Welcome back to the channel, and in this video what we're going to be doing is a little bit different, and I know I've done this in a few other videos in the past, but in this video what we're going to do is we're going to create an isometric, and then we're going to dimension the isometric, right? So what you're looking at on the screen right now is not an example of it, but by the time I'm finished with this video you'll know exactly what I mean. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch over to AutoCAD and get started. Now, if you followed along in the AutoCAD video where I created this using 2D AutoCAD, you'll see that I already have the isometric here. And we can go ahead and copy and paste this into our other drawing here and start from that way. But in this video, I will go ahead and draw the isometric for you again. So I'll also show you just how to copy and paste this, and it's just that simple, right? We can just go ahead and highlight this and use the regular Control-C. And we can copy this, and then we're going to go ahead and create a new sheet here. And then I'll go ahead and paste it, right? So I'll just come here and go to Control-V. Well, once everything loads up, here we go. There we go. All right. So now you can see that it is sitting there behind it. I'll zoom the extents here in a second and you can see it. Rather quick way of doing that, but let's go ahead and draw this from scratch. So let me go ahead and delete this real quick. And let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we need to do is set AutoCAD up into isometric. It's just simply by selecting that button there. Let's go ahead and turn this grid off. There's no need to show that. And make sure that we have our ortho on. Another thing I can go ahead and do from here is go ahead and just verify what running O snaps that I have on. And these are going to be the ones I'll be using for this video. Okay. Now we have our isometric set. Remember that we can shift everything with the F5 button, or I think in this video I'll be showing you by using the fly ups next to it, but you can also cycle through these just by using the F5 button. Okay. Let's go ahead and start with the line. Let me jump back to the home here and use a line. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and kind of lay out this bottom portion here. So I'm just going to go right around this way. And then I'm give this a distance of 100. Let's go up this direction, a distance of 60. Back this direction, 100. And then see to close. Okay. Let's go ahead and switch this to an isometric right. And then I can go ahead and start creating this other side here. So I can just use a line here. Go from this endpoint and go up a distance of, let's see, 45. I'll come forward a distance of 20. Now we have to do a little subtraction. We know that we went up 45. Let's go ahead and subtract the other 20 here in a second. So we're just going to come down a distance of 25. We'll come back this direction. And remember that that number was 60. So if we subtract that 20 from that, we'll have a distance of 40. And then we'll come right down to that endpoint. Okay. So I'm just kind of laying out a rough stick figure here. Now, this is totally different than what I did in the other video when I created this. But I'm just showing you that if we didn't have those curves, we can go ahead and create it exactly like this. But since I do have those curves, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this portion here. And then I'll go ahead and create it. But if I didn't have those curves on there and I was making everything nice and short, sharp edges, and let me go ahead and finish this since I'm talking about it just to show you the difference. We can go ahead and create this shape here, and all I did there is copy that. If you don't want to do that, I can simply go back to the isometric left, start a line from this endpoint. See, it looks like I'm not in the line command. And then we'll go over this direction. Remember that distance is 100. We'll go down 20. And then we can utilize the copy command and grab all of this. So I could just select these lines here, choose copy, go from this endpoint over to that endpoint. Okay. I can copy some other lines here. Let's go ahead and use this and copy that line from this endpoint, and then I can just place it at 3 different locations, right? So one there, one at that endpoint, and then another one at that endpoint. Let's go ahead and delete this line since we're no need to see that one. And we should be able to get rid of these two lines. Okay, so this is kind of what I was referring to. If these were all nice and sharp corners, you know, this would be no problem for us. But since we do have these round fillets on here, and we can't use the fillet command, remember we have to create those. So the next step I'm going to do here is switch back to isometric top, and I'm going to go ahead and put the fillets that are located on here, right? The way that I'm going to do that is I have to start off by typing in EL for the ellipse command. I have to give it a point. I'm just going to click this endpoint for now. Oh, I took one. I'm sorry. I always make that one mistake. Let's escape out of that. Let's go EL, enter. There we go. Click this endpoint here, and then I have to tell it that I'm using an ISO circle. It looks like I did it again. So EL, enter, I enter, and then click this endpoint. There we go. Once I do that, then I can give it the radius here, and the radius is going to be set to 30. What I like to do from this point is I'll just go ahead and copy this circle to the other side. So I'll select it here, go to copy, go from this endpoint to the other endpoint. Okay. And what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to go ahead and start moving some things, right? So I'll go to move, select this ellipse, hit enter, come this direction. So I selected a line, come that direction, type in 30, do the exact same thing with this one. So I'll select here. And then I'll use the move command. Select this endpoint here. Or just select the distance, I'm sorry, a point here. And go that direction, give it 30. Go back to the move command. This time select both of your circles. Enter. Pick a base point. Go this direction. 30. Okay. So I have these two arcs here. Let's use the trim command. And I want you to go ahead and use cutting edges, just so it'll save us some time. I'm going to select this line, this one, and this one. Enter. And now all I have to do is just trim off these portions, right? So it should trim there and trim here. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is copy these two arcs from this endpoint, going straight down to this endpoint. Okay, so on this side, I'm just going to work on this half. I'm going to select the line here, go to move, select this endpoint, and then I'm going to place it on this midpoint here. I'm going to come and take a look at this side. Select this line here, and this time I'm going to choose copy. I'm going to use this endpoint, and then I'm just going to copy it at that endpoint and at this endpoint. Okay? All right, so now we should be ready to trim. So let's go to trim. Let's work over here first. So we're going to trim this back right until it gets to that line. We can go ahead and get rid of this line here and this one. Let's go ahead and trim all of this stuff back. Next, let's work on the other side here. So let's pan up. We'll go ahead and trim both of these lines. Both of these lines. And then this line here, we'll trim it twice to get rid of it. Okay. Let's escape out of that. So now you see that we do have that created. Okay. So that's the bottom portion. Next, we'll go ahead and put our fillets that are located on these two corners here. To do that, I'm going to first start off by switching to an isometric left. Exactly like we did here in the beginning is that we went to the ellipse command. So type in EL, enter. Tell it that you want to use an ISO circle. So type in I, enter. Click this endpoint, and then give it the radius, which is going to be 15. Go ahead and copy that circle. So I'll use the copy command. Select here. Going from this endpoint over to this endpoint. All right. Remember we did the move thing. So let's go ahead and go to move. Select this circle here. Hit enter. Click here, come down this direction, a distance of whatever the radius is. In our case, that number was 15. Do the exact same thing here on the other side. So I'll select, go to move, click a point, drag this direction, type in 15, then select both of the circles, go to move, pick a base point, and then send this one down, 15. All right, trim command again, so let's use trim. We're going to select a cutting edges, so go to cutting edges, select these 3 lines here, so I got one there, and one here. Enter. Let's go ahead and trim off these portions. Select both of those arcs. And then we're going to go ahead and copy them, right? So I'll go to copy. I'm going to use this endpoint to this endpoint. I'm going to select this line here. I'll use copy. I'll use from this endpoint, and what I'm going to do is select, it's going to be an intersection or an endpoint here. We should have another one here. It's going to be one on this side. Let's see if I click. There it is. And then we should have a midpoint or a quadrant here. Okay. Now I'm going to purposely leave this front line intact, right? So we're going to go to the trim command. And then I'm just going to trim off some of these lines. So starting on this side, I'm going to trim here, this portion, and then here. I'm going to trim off this bottom piece here. Now, like I said, I'm going to leave this top line intact. Let's go ahead and work on this side. We're going to trim off these 2 lines and this one. Let's go ahead and get rid of this line now. We don't need it. Okay. Let's go ahead and escape out of this command. So now we have this created. Okay. Now the reason I left that there is because I still need that midpoint there in order to draw my other 2 circles here. So I'll go back to the ellipse command. So EL, enter, I enter. Let's go ahead and click on this midpoint here and then draw the radius, which is 25. Okay. We're going to do that again. So we're going to type in EL, enter, I enter. I'm going to go to this center. This time we're going to change to a diameter. So I'll select the diameter and then give it the diameter, which is going to be 40. Let's go ahead and copy these 2 circles. I'll go ahead and pre-select them. So I'll select both of them here. Go to copy. I can use this endpoint to this endpoint. Okay, let's escape out of that. Let's go ahead and select this line here. Use copy. Let's see, it looks like I may have lost that line. So I'll go to copy, select objects, hit enter, go to this endpoint here. And then I'll go ahead and place it. I should have a quadrant sitting there. And then this is where you're going to have to kind of, find out where you're going. So I'm looking at this circle here, and wherever it intersects with this line is where I want that line to stop at, right? Okay. And I don't think I'll be able to see it along the other side there. So I'm going to leave it how it is. Let's escape out of this command. And then we're going to work with the trim command, right? So let's go to trim. Next, let's go ahead and get rid of these lines that we know we don't need anymore. So I'm just going to get rid of this edge here. Likewise on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and trim off these 2 edges. Okay. Now I'll work with my circles here, right? So I know that this big circle here, this part goes away, and this part. And the exact same thing happens on the back side, right? So I'm just going to start off with my big circle here, and I'm just going to kind of make sure I trim that around until it gets to that end point in the back. And then if I'm looking at this big circle here in the back, I'm just going to walk this around a little bit further. Let's go ahead and zoom in and get that little piece here. And I want this one to come up all the way into this line here. Okay. We're looking at this circle here. It looks like I accidentally missed that piece there. Let's go ahead and trim that off. Okay. All right, so all of that looks good. Next, I'm going to worry about this inner circle here. So I'm just going to start here, and I'm just going to start trimming this all the way until I can see it opening through here. And I'm going to stop it right at that point. Let's go ahead and work here at the top as well. Let's go ahead and trim that piece off. Now let's get rid of this line that's going through here. So I'm just going to start here. Click this one. And then this one. And I should have a line right here. Okay. We have one on the back side here. And everything that we know from this point here is going to kind of be invisible. I'll trim off this one. As well as this line here. All right. So we don't have any of that visible. Then we're going to just keep trimming along here. Okay. I'll go ahead and hit escape. Okay. And it is also determined that those centers of these circles here happens to be at the center of these ellipses. So that's going to save us a little bit of time here. So we're just going to use the ellipse command. So IL enter, I enter. Go find the center of this circle here, or iso circle I should say. Click on it there. Go down to diameter. And this has a diameter of 10. Okay. Next, we're going to go ahead and copy this, right? We're going to use the copy command. Let's go ahead and take this circle here, or iso circle I should say. Go ahead and hit enter. I'm just going to go from this center. And then I'm going to go and find the center that's located somewhere over here, which is at that location. And then I'll hit escape. Okay. So now the isometric is complete. Now we're ready to kind of set up the next portion of this, which is going to be dimensioning this. So we're going to go ahead and put this on a title block. Go ahead and show you how to set that up. And then we'll go ahead and start doing our dimensions. Okay. So let's go ahead and start off by defining our title block, right? So let's go ahead and get out of the isometric here. We're going to type in REC. It stands for rectangle, or you can come and click that icon there. I'm going to type in 0, 0. That's where I want my lower left at. And I want my upper right at 17, 11. Okay. Just going to zoom the extents and see if I could find where that is at. You can see it's there at the bottom. Let's kind of take a look at this for a second. Let's go ahead and use the offset command. So I'll go to offset, give it a distance of 0.25, enter, select this line here, come to the inside, escape. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and set up my layers right now. So I'll go to layers, and then I'm going to define the ones I need. So we're going to have a dimension layer. We can go ahead and make a center layer. Looks like it didn't type it in for me. Okay. We don't have to have a hidden layer, but I'll go ahead and, go ahead and type in one for you. So that's going to be a hidden layer. And then let's go ahead and give a border layer. Let's just call that BRD. And then we can have one that's just called paper. Okay. That should be more than enough layers, but this is always a good exercise on how to create layers. So the dimension one, let's go ahead and give it a color of 1, which happens to be red. Let's call the center layer. I always typically like to put that on color number 4, which is cyan. So that's going to be my cyan color. Hidden one, I can either go with a color number 5 or even a color 6. So let's go with color 6, magenta. Let's go ahead and make our border. Let's go ahead and make that color number 5. Oh, for some strange reason, I think it changed. Let me go back up to here. My dimension one should be color number 1. And my center one should be color number 4. There we go. And then the paper one, let's go ahead and make that. We can make it kind of any color I want. Let's make it a color number 2, which is a yellow. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do here on the paper one is that I don't want this one to be printed. So I'm just going to click where the little printer is so we won't see that one. Okay, next let's go find the center one. Then we're going to click on the word continuous next to that one. Go to load. Scroll down until you find center 2. Go ahead and hit OK. Then select center 2 and hit OK. The dimension one, we're going to leave it as continuous. The hidden one, we're going to go where it says continuous next to that one. We're going to hit the load button. We're going to scroll down until we find hidden 2. Go ahead and hit OK on that. Select it here and then hit OK. And then on the paper one, why not? Let's go ahead and make that one a hidden 2 as well. So we'll just go ahead and hit OK on that one. Okay, so this is all the layers that I need. I don't think I need any other special ones. Let's go ahead and close this. I'm going to select this inside rectangle, come to the drop down, and go ahead and put that on the border layer. Go ahead and hit escape twice. Next, select the outside one here. Select in the drop down and go ahead and select paper. Escape there. I'm going to highlight all of this. And then I'm going to come to create. I'm going to give this a name, a title block, so just TB. All the rest of this information should be the same. So just make sure that your lower left corner point is at 0, 0, 0. We're going to tell it to convert the block. We want it to scale together. And we're going to leave this one set up in inches. Okay. Once I hit the OK button, this should now become a block, which means that if I select one of these, I select both of them. The benefit of doing this is now we can figure out what the scale factor is. So as I select this, I'm going to go ahead and go to my properties window. If you don't have this property window open, you can always select your object first, do a right click, and then go down and find properties. Once I find properties, then I need to figure out what scale it is. Let me zoom out a little bit so we can take a look and make sure that our title block can fit this on the inside. Remember, the rule is that you scale your title block. Do not scale your object, right? Or in that case, there's a little bit more to that. You do not scale your main object. So let's go ahead and play with this a little bit, and let's go ahead and see what a title block of an 8 looks like. So you can see that that 8 does not quite fit what I need it to be, right? Let's go ahead and see what a 12 is then. So we have a 12. And is that enough room to fit everything in there? And it looks like it is not. And I'm just going to show you that by moving this around on the inside of it. So if I select here, enter, click here, and you're going to see that, let me go ahead and turn the ortho off, that when I try to move this around, it fits. But I don't have necessarily enough room to put in all of my dimensions. So yes, 12 technically fits it, but we're going to need something just a little bit bigger. And I'm coming over here and trying to figure out what's happening here in my scale factors, right? So I have one that's set to 12, and then let's see what this one is. And there is a way to calculate this, right? So this is one of those things where you're going to have to calculate. And I know I have a video somewhere where I explain exactly what this 3/4 equals a foot is, right? But in our case, the shortcut method for this is that you multiply the denominator by the other number to the other side. So I'm just going to take 4 times 12. That's going to give me 48. And then I divide it by the numerator, which is going to be the 3. And that gives me a scale factor of 16, right? So 3/4 equals a foot has a scale factor of 16. So now when I select this one and I see what a scale factor of 16 looks like, does that fit? And that looks just enough to where we can get everything in here. Everything looks all nice and neat. So I'm just going to go ahead and move this up a little bit more. Yep, and that's going to be plenty of room for us, right? So our scale factor is 16. We're going to come here to the fly up, and then we're going to actually click it here, right? So if I come here, I can select the scale factor of 16 here, or if you're using the metric conversion to it, the 1:16 is the exact same thing as that. This one is dealing with architectural units or imperial units if you like to think about it. This one is going to deal with your metric units, but it's not going to change the way AutoCAD functions, right? Both of those are exactly the same. So I'm going to go ahead and select this one here at the bottom. Now, once I change that scale, you can see that my line types are not showing up the way that they should. I'm just going to type in REA. That just stands for Regen All. Once I hit enter, you're going to see that I get my dash lines to appear. Okay. All right, here's another thing that you're going to find out about when you're dealing with stuff, especially using isometrics, is that we can't use our annotations or things of that nature, some of our cheat codes. So I'm just going to come back to here, and then I'm going to come down to here, and then I'm going to go ahead and draw a line. Now, I know that the radius of this, or in our case, the diameter of this one is 10, and then outside of here, this radius is 15. So if I do a little bit of doubling of that, if the radius is 15, then that means that the overall diameter of this has to be 30, which means that I have to have a line at least a distance of 30 or more, right? So I'm going to start off with the line, and I'm going to click here, and I'm going to go down. Let's go ahead and put the ortho back on. And I'm going to go down a distance of more than 30, right? So let's go ahead and make it a number like 33. Let's escape out of here. I'm going to draw another line going this direction, 33 as well. Let's go ahead and hit escape. I'm going to select this line here, go to move, find this midpoint on this line, and place it at this midpoint here. Okay, let's escape out of that. I'll select both of these lines, go to move, select this midpoint, and then place it at the center here. Okay, I'm going to select both of these lines that I just created, come here to this layer, and tell it that it needs to be on the center layer. Let's escape out of this. Oh, don't think I changed it, did I? There we go. Next, I can select these two lines again. Go to copy. I'm just going to use this midpoint again and place it on this one. Okay. Now the same thing we're going to have to do with this one, right? So we know that this outside radius is set to 50. I'm sorry, 25 is the radius. The diameter of it is 50. So I have to create a line that's more than 50. So I'm going to come back and draw a line. And then let's make this line somewhere like 53. Let's just barely make it go off of it. So 53 is fine. Let's draw another line going this direction at 53. Escape. Let's put these two lines together. So I'm just going to go ahead and move that line from this midpoint to that midpoint. Okay, I'll go ahead and select them both. Go ahead and put them on the center layer. Escape out of this. Then I'm going to go ahead and place this line. So I'm going to select, go to move, select this midpoint, and then place it at this center. Okay. Now, what we typically like to do is have this plus in the middle. I'm going to have to kind of play with that a little bit, right? So I'm going to select both of these lines. I'm going to come to my properties window, and this is when I'm going to increase this number, right? So I want that plus to be in the middle, and I only want one plus. So let's see what 2 does. So I'll make it twice as big, and now you can see that that plus is right in the middle there. Okay. All right. So we've done everything we needed to do for as our center marks. Now we have to do some setting up in order to make our dimensions work and make sense, right? We got to do 2 things. The first thing I'm going to do is I usually like to go ahead and adjust a text style, right? And the way that we're going to do that is that underneath the annotation here, I'll click on this first icon, and that's going to bring me up to the text style. Give it a second here. I'm going to use the annotation one. So I'm just going to click here. Go ahead and double click on that. And then we're going to create a new one, right? We're going to call this first one 30. Go ahead and hit OK on that. And then we're going to create another one, right? We're going to create another one, and let's call it, I wish I can call it -30, but let's just call it, well, maybe that might work. Let's see if -30 will work. Okay, so I have 30 and -30, right? So this -30, let's go to the obliquing angle and change it to 30 here. Wait a minute, that'll be a -30. And then we'll go to this one. Go ahead and hit yes to that question. Yes, we're going to save it. And then on this one, we're going to make it 30. Okay, so we have those three. And let's go ahead and save that as well. Okay, so we have a -30. Its obliquing angle is at -30. We have a regular 30, which has an obliquing angle at 30. And then we have our regular annotative. I'm just going to double click on annotative. That should be fine. Let's go ahead and hit close. Okay. So that part is done. And then the next part of this is that anytime you're dimensioning this kind of stuff is that you're going to find that it's going to get a little difficult when you're going to put your dimensions on this, right? I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm trying to think of how I can explain that to you, but it's probably easier for me to show it to you once we get to that portion. So let's go ahead and set up our dimension style. So we're going to come here to the dimension style and come and click this icon to open up the dimension style. We're going to double click on the annotative. I'll go to modify. And once this appears, we always work from the right to the left, just how my brain works. So underneath the primary units, we'll go ahead and get rid of any of the trailing zeros. Underneath the fit, we shouldn't have to worry about that since we're using the annotative one. Underneath our text, we can use either one of these, but right now leave it set to standard or annotative. I guess it really doesn't matter which one of those we're going to select. We're going to wind up changing them if need be. Underneath the symbols and arrows, go ahead and make this none. We don't need to really change this. This is another one of those complicated things you're going to find out when we're dimension isometrics here, is that we can't dimension circles like we normally do. And then underneath the lines here, we'll just go ahead and leave this one the way it is. So we're going to leave everything big on purpose, right? Let's go ahead and hit the OK button and then close. I'm going to jump over to the annotation tab here. And then where it says use current, I'm going to select this drop down here and tell it that I'll be using the dimension ones. Okay. Now we're ready to go ahead and put our first dimension on. And this is what I was trying to explain to you, is that if I want to dimension this first one at 100, remember I have no way of specifying this distance between, right? I absolutely have no way that I can place that dimension on here. So what I have to do is go ahead and kind of give myself some guidelines here. What I mean by that is I'm going to come here to the home. I'm just going to draw a line from here going out this direction. Go ahead and hit escape. And switch over to isometric right. We're going to draw a line going out to this direction, right? So I'm going to make a line from here going to this direction. I'll go ahead and trim these two lines. And what I like to do now is that I'm going to take this line here and I'm just going to copy it, right? I'll go from this endpoint over to that endpoint. Then I'll take this line here and I'll just copy it from this endpoint over to this endpoint. Okay, so now I can decide to trim off that extra piece, but I'm going to leave it for now. Let me go ahead and move all of this up a little bit. So I'm just going to go to move. Click a base point here and go up a little bit. Okay. So now I want to go ahead and place a dimension on here. So when I use a dimension, here's another option that you have to use. You can't use a linear dimension. You have to use the aligned one. I'll go from this endpoint to this endpoint. Then I'll come down and place this dimension, right? Okay, so all of that seems to be fine, right? Now we need to get this thing to either lay down or stand up, or whichever way I want to deal with this. And that's going to be your obliquing angle, right? So depending on how you want your obliquing angle to appear on this one, that's what we need to adjust. I'm going to come back to the annotation scale. Underneath the dimensions icon here, the second icon is called a dimension obliquing, right? So I'll select that there. Go ahead and select this dimension, hit enter, and then it's going to ask me for an angle. I'm just going to give it an angle of 30, and you're going to see that this will come straight out. Right? Now the other thing that I was showing you is with the dimensions. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to go to the properties, and then I'm going to go down to the text, and I'm looking for angle rotation. Okay? So at this point, I'm going to type in 30 here. And it's going to have to depend, and you see which direction that's going. So if it's going the wrong direction, go ahead and change this to a negative 30. All right. And then I can have this either lay down or stand up by coming up to the text, and underneath the text style, I can click here. And then remember those 30s and negative 30s, right? So you can see that at my negative 30 is going to stand it up. But if I use a regular 30, it'll make it flat. Okay? So that's one of those little tricks and trades that you will learn. Another thing that I like to do here is that I'll use the match properties to kind of mimic the other ones, right? So I can go here, and then I can match properties here so you don't get them confused with my actual lines here. Okay? All right? So the exact same principles will apply if I wanted to copy this up. And it looks like I did forget a line there. Let me go ahead and place it there here in a second. Let's go to copy, select this line here, hit enter. Go from that intersection to that endpoint. Okay, that looks better. Okay, so that's going to give me that distance there. And likewise, if I wanted to put a distance over here, right? So what I would do here is I would copy these two lines. Go ahead and hit enter. Go from that endpoint to this endpoint. And what I tend to like to do a little bit more is I'll go ahead and draw a line that goes from this endpoint to this one. And if you wanted to, you got two different options here. I can either leave them this way, or I can make them on my hidden layer that I created before. So that way, oh, I keep hitting escape too quick for myself. I can go ahead and differentiate those from my actual drawing here, right? Meaning that I can go ahead now and I can delete that since you won't see it, but you can see that this is now something. Let's go back to my align dimension here. Let's go ahead and place an endpoint to endpoint here. Go ahead and drag this out. And then which way do I want this to go? Do I want that to be extended off that way, or do I want that to be extended in line with my 100? Remember, that's underneath the dimension icon here, and go to oblique. Go ahead and select this line here, hit enter, give it this obliquing angle, which is going to be 30, and hit enter. You can see that now that's in line with this one. I can go ahead and select this dimension now. I can go ahead and click on this endpoint, and then put it at this endpoint. Okay, and then we can play around with this like I did before. So I can come here and I can come to the properties and go find the text rotation. I can either type in 30, and that looks like to be the direction that I want it. If it's not, it's either going to be 30 or negative 30, right? So those are going to be your only two choices. So if I want it to go this way or the other way, that's going to be strictly up to you. So I'm going to leave mine facing this way, and then also I'm going to change the annotation, right? So I can tell it that I can use this 30, or I can use my negative 30. In my case, I'm just going to use the 31. Okay. All right. So hopefully you're kind of enjoying some of this stuff. I don't know if you like doing these kind of videos or me showing you how to do some kind of behind the scene things here. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy these, and I'll use the type in method now. So CO, enter, go from this endpoint to the other one. Let's draw a line between here. Then I'll use the match property. So MA, enter. Select the source one first and then select these over here. Okay. And this is basically how I would set this up if I was doing this, right? So you can either choose to, kind of do it this way, or it's a lot easier to do some of the other drawing stuff that we did. I know this video is getting kind of long, so I'm not going to bore you with too much longer of this. I'm just going to kind of speed through the rest of this, and you can kind of follow along. I don't think I need to really talk too much more about the step-by-steps on how to do this. It's going to all be the same concept. So at this point, I'm just going to probably just speed, or I might even accelerate this part in the video. Is make it about 2x fast. So, and we'll see, how quick I can basically get this. Okay. And I don't know if I want to really kind of finish all of this. I think that what I'm going to show you now is just doing some circles and things of that nature. So we don't have a diameter dimension, and you will see that if I try to utilize that by saying, okay, let me go a diameter dimension and select here, it's going to tell me that, hey, that is not a circle or an arc. So in order to do that, we have to use leaders, and I'm just going to type in QL. That just stands for quick leader. And what I like to do with this is go to the center first. Let me go ahead and back it out over here. And let's see, the width of the text should be about there. That looks fine to me. Remember, this is where we have to remember some of this stuff that we used. So %C. What is the diameter? 40. So I'll have to do this, and what I like to do is point to the center first. That way, when I come back and select this leader line, I'll click on that's endpoint, and then I'll go find where it intersects here. One of the rules here is that circles are your diameter dimensions and your radius dimensions always need to point to the center, right? So that's why I'm doing it that way. And likewise here, if I wanted to do a radius, right, I would do a quick leader. I will come to this center, come up to here, go ahead and hit enter twice. I will type in R25, enter, enter. And it looks like I used a lowercase r. I'm just going to go ahead and edit this dimension. And use a capital R. Okay. And so just like I did before, is that I will escape out of here. I will select this endpoint. And then I'll go ahead and click here. and place it at that intersection, right? So that's kind of the hint behind these two circles here, and likewise with this radius. Now we also can do some of that obliquing stuff, just more or less we would have to do it with the text rotation. Let's see if I do have that option here. So it's going to be here. If I tell it 30 degrees, let's take a look and see which way it goes. Don't think I like it. I think I'm going to wind up leaving this at 0 because the negative 30 is going to be the opposite effect. And so yeah, we could play around with that a little bit, I guess, but from what I learned and what I've done over my years is I usually leave it looking like this. So that's more or less how we would do some more of, you know, this kind of stuff here. All right, so I'll go ahead and put this on the right layer, and I don't want to take up, you know, too much of your time. I see this video is getting quite long, but oh, did I get it on the right layer? Okay. Yeah, but you can see that this is kind of how you would set this up, and you would go through this and likewise. So if you want to see me do a little bit more of this, please leave me a comment below, and I can do a little bit more in these videos, but I'm just trying to basically get you to the concept of how you would do something along this line if you did not have, you know, basically the views. Sometimes there are going to be some drawings that you're going to see and they're going to be dimensioned isometrically, and then you're going to have to create the 3 views. Well, in this case, this is me showing you kind of the opposite effect of it, is that we created an isometric and then we made a view out of it, right? So, but enough of that. I know this video is getting long enough. I want to, you know, thank you for watching. Thank you for all the people who are subscribing and helping my channel grow. I really do appreciate it. And until the next video, I'll see what I come up with next, all right? And please leave me a comment if there's something that you want to see me do, or you may not fully have understood this, right? But thank you, and once again, thank you for watching.